Hey, thank you for continuing to tune into these videos. This week we did 5 pretty simple videos on different algorithms, different pretty basic algorithms. Next week we're going to kick the difficulty up a notch. For next week's problem, I'm going to show you how to build an algorithm that solves easy Sudoku problems. So even though the Sudoku problems are pretty easy, the algorithm is not, but if you break it down into simple steps, it can be done. Appreciate you continuing to tune in. Thank you very much. Bye. Today I'm going to show you how to find the most common word in a block of text. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to declare a function. We're going to call it most common word. It's going to take an argument that's a string. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to find every single word in here. Now, if we're going to do a test case, like console.log most common word, and do something like I am a string, the most common string in this string is string. You can trust me on this one. So that's the test string. Sorry, I know it's a little blunt, but we want to match on everything. One of the ways that you could do this is you could do string.split and split it on the spaces, which works pretty well. I'll show you how to do this in node tutorial.js, and that works, except for one little problem, and that is that it matches on the punctuation as well. We don't want that. We don't want any spaces or commas, or we don't want any commas or periods. So what we can instead do is use .match. Now this takes a regex equation. I know regex scares a lot of people, but it's not as bad once you get going. So this is saying, basically what this is saying is we are doing every letter from A to Z and then plus. So that'll match as many of them as possible and then stop. So it goes A to Z, and then G means we're going to match on all of them. I just means case insensitive. So every single time it hits a letter, it says, okay, cool, I'm going to keep going until I find another letter. I'm going to keep going while I'm finding another letter, and then as soon as I can't find one, I'm going to stop. So it'll go I, it'll match, and then with A, it'll do that, it'll hit the A, and then it'll say, okay, another letter, and then stop. With string, this word, it'll go string, and then it'll stop when it's the period. So let's try that again, see what we get. Great, so it gets the same thing, only this time it pulls the punctuation out. That's awesome. So we are going to go ahead and we are going to call this words. Let's just make it clear it's words array. All right. Now we need to find the most common word in that array. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated. We need to loop through the words array. So let's do wordsAre.map. The argument that we pass to this function is going to be every element in the array, so we'll call it word. And let's just make sure this works, and we will console.log word. Okay, I did something wrong here. I can't spell. That's the problem. Okay, so it goes through every single string. It worked well. So now we want to find the most common word. And I think what we're going to need here is an object. So we'll say words obj, and that is going to be a hash or an object. So I'll go through this and I'll say words object is equal to words object with the word as the key plus 1 or 1. Now, some of you have never seen the syntax. I'm sure you're wondering what I just did. What this is word. So I need to set that as a key. So what you do is you go through, go into the words object, and you set the word as a key. All right, this is the OR syntax, and I know you're used to seeing this seeing something like this, true or false. This is a little bit different. What this does is you go in, and if this evaluates to a falsy value, it will differentiate, or it'll automatically set the value equal to the other side. So if words object word is equal to something like 1, it will increment it by 1, otherwise it'll set it equal to 1. So let's go through and let's console.log the words object. After we do that, and see what it comes out as. So see, it counts every single word in the sentence and it breaks it out. And so that looks pretty good to me. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make it spit out string. We also need to do one more thing, because this should be case insensitive. So I'm going to say word is equal to word dot to lowercase. Could do to uppercase, doesn't matter. Great, it's all lowercase now. So moving on, we need to print out every single word, and we need to just return the maximum. So how do we do that? This is what we're going to return. So we will put return object dot keys for the words object. Now this prints out every single unique word in here, which is useful for another problem. But for this one, what we want to do is we want to use the reduce function. So the reduce function can be used to find the maximum here. So what we do is we take two arguments and we use current max value, and element. Now, you're wondering, how do I pass those in as arguments? These are automatic. So the second argument in the reduce function is always going to be the elements that we're going to iterate through, and the first one is just a value that we're updating every single time we iterate through. So every single time we iterate through an element, we execute this code over here, and whatever it returns is going to be set as the current max value. So let's do this just to illustrate this. We're going to say, okay, words object element greater. We're going to use a tertiary operator here, which I can explain in a second. So I forgot to explain the tertiary operator, so I'm going to run it down real quick. Check this out. Var x is equal to 1 greater than 0. Okay, so yes, no. Yes and no. Okay, so why was x equal to yes? What happens here is we're setting the variable equal to the result of this. There's a statement over here. If it evaluates to true, it goes to whatever is on the left side of this thing, so yes. And if it evaluates to false, it goes to whatever is on the right side. So let's go again. Is 1 less than 0? It's not. No. So just to more clearly illustrate this, true. Yes. No. False. No. Hope that made sense. Let's see what we get. Oh, didn't do something right. That's all right though. We will figure it out. So what I did wrong here was I used the wrong word. I was supposed to use the words object because we're going to pass a key in. Let's try it again. Great, so string gets returned. So what did I do here? I went object.keys and I checked. So I went out, I printed every key from the words object. I then reduced it, and what reduce does is you take an element as one of the arguments, so you're going to iterate through every element, And we're going to, after every single time we iterate through the element, we're going to set whatever this returns over here, everything over here, equal to current max val. So this has been another tutorial. I know this one was a little bit more complicated than the ones in the past. Next week, we're going to kick the difficulty level up another level. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you very much.